The last time you got sick, you probably did a few very specific things. You rested. You drank something warm. Maybe someone brought you food or checked on you. Maybe you took something for the pain. You didn't think about any of it. It just happened. Automatically, instinctively, as if your body already knew the protocol. It did. And that protocol is far older than you think. For most of human history, getting sick wasn't just a personal crisis. It was a social one. In a group of 20 or 30 people living together, one sick member changed everything. It threatened the food supply, it threatened the group's ability to move, to defend itself, to survive. And yet, across thousands of archaeological sites and hundreds of thousands of years of evidence, the same pattern appears again and again. They didn't abandon the sick.
They cared for them. Think about it. We tend to assume that ancient life was brutal and short, that survival of the fittest meant leaving the weak behind, that compassion is something civilization invented, a luxury of modernity, something that came after language and laws and the invention of the doctor. But the bones tell a different story. Paleoanthropologist Trenton Holliday, studying skeletal remains from Neanderthal sites across Europe and the Middle East, found evidence of individuals who had survived catastrophic injuries and debilitating illness for years, sometimes decades before death. Broken limbs that healed, severe arthritis that would have made independent survival impossible, missing teeth in individuals who still lived long enough to grow old. None of these people could have survived without sustained, deliberate care from others. Someone fed them when they couldn't feed themselves. Someone stayed close. Someone chose not to leave.
Weird, right? We think of empathy as a human invention, as something that emerged with civilization, with religion, with moral philosophy. But your ancestors were nursing their sick and injured long before any of those things existed, long before they had a word for kindness, long before they even had a word. But here's the thing. It wasn't just Neanderthals. In 2015, a discovery in a cave system in South Africa changed what scientists thought they knew about the origins of compassionate behavior. Researcher Lee Berger and his team uncovered the remains of Homo naledi, a species that predates modern humans by hundreds of thousands of years, in a chamber so deep and so difficult to access that researchers could only conclude the bodies had been deliberately placed there. Not eaten, not dragged there by predators, placed. Something that old, something that deep, something that deliberate. The care of the sick and the care of the dead turn out to be the same instinct. Both say, this body matters. This person mattered. What happens to them is not nothing.
So how did they actually do it? Archaeobotanist Naomi Sykes and researchers studying ancient plant remains at sites across the Near East have found evidence of medicinal plant use dating back at least 60,000 years. Yarrow, groundsel, ephedra, plants with real pharmacological properties, anti-inflammatory, analgesic, stimulant, found in contexts suggesting deliberate use rather than accidental consumption. Your ancestors weren't just lying in the dark hoping to feel better. They were doing something about it. They were, in the most literal sense, practicing medicine. Not the medicine of hospitals and clinical trials and peer-reviewed journals, but medicine in its original form, knowledge passed between people about what the earth provided, what eased pain, what brought fever down, what helped a wound close. That knowledge was accumulated over thousands of generations, tested on real bodies in real pain, refined and remembered and handed on.
And that's kind of beautiful. The very first doctors weren't trained. They weren't licensed. They were just the person in the group who paid attention, who remembered that this leaf helped last time, who stayed up through the night watching someone breathe. So what does that mean for you? Every time you bring soup to a sick friend, every time you sit beside someone in a hospital and hold their hand, every time you stay up worrying about someone who isn't well, you are not doing something modern. You are not doing something civilized. You are doing something so old, it predates your species as we currently define it. But here's what changes when you understand this. We live in a time when care has been professionalized, outsourced, handed to systems and institutions that are better equipped than any individual to handle illness. And that is genuinely good.
The medicine your ancestors stumbled toward through centuries of observation, we have refined it into something extraordinary.
But somewhere in that handover, something also shifted. The impulse to personally show up, to be the one who stays, who watches, who brings something warm. That impulse didn't disappear. It just became awkward, optional, something people apologize for. Your ancestors didn't outsource presence. Presence was the medicine. In a world without antibiotics, without surgery, without any of the tools that actually cure disease, the single most powerful thing a sick person could receive was another person who chose to stay. That choice, to stay rather than leave, to help rather than abandon, is not a modern virtue. It is one of the oldest behaviors your species ever performed. It is encoded in you so deeply that you feel it as instinct, not decision. When someone you love is sick, you don't calculate whether to care for them. You just do. Researcher Penny Spikins at the University of York has argued that compassion itself, the neurological capacity to feel another person's pain as a call to action, may have been one of the key evolutionary advantages that allowed early humans to outcompete every other species on Earth. Not strength, not intelligence alone. Compassion. The willingness to metabolize someone else's suffering and turn it into help. The last time you got sick, someone probably checked on you. And the last time someone you loved got sick, you probably checked on them. You didn't learn that. You didn't decide it. It was already in you, placed there by 100,000 years of groups that survived because they refused to leave their sick behind. The medicine has changed. The impulse never did. The last time you got sick, someone probably checked on you. And now you know that wasn't kindness they learned. That was something 100,000 years old showing up at your door with soup. If this video meant something to you, share it. With someone who's been sick recently. With someone who showed up for you without being asked. With someone who needs reminding that the impulse to care is older than language itself. Like this video if it changed how you see even one ordinary act of kindness today. Subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next, because the next question goes just as deep. And drop a comment below. Tell me what you felt, what changed, what question you want answered next. This channel exists because of people who stay till the end. So thank you. Genuinely. See you in the next one.